Prost! The Helles Bock is ready to go, or a Maibock, however you want to call it. They're kind of interchangeable with some slight differences. This started as a Munich Helles. It turned into a Bock. I ended up going a little too aggressive with my recipe. I ended up with an initial gravity of 1.064, a final gravity of 1.01. It got right into that range of almost 7.1% ABV. That puts it right more into a Helles Bock range rather than Munich Helles. I'm really happy with it. It's a happy mistake as far as I'm concerned. It's a great spring beer, and it will still be highly drinkable into the summer. You just got to be a little careful because it's strong. You can see how nice that's cleared out already. It really does need to lager for a couple more weeks and it will clear up a little bit more, but it's pretty much there. I'm really happy with it. It smells great, very malty. I've tasted Maibocks that are hopped a little bit more than this is, but I'm okay with that because I don't want too much bittering. The attenuation on this was wild, like 84%. So it definitely is not too sweet. And I don't think I needed any additional bittering. It has a great head on it, great head retention. It's smooth. It's got a nice medium body to it. It's malty, it's doughy. Oh man, that is smooth, crisp, and clean. I'm gonna take you through the whole brewing process, everything I did, and then we're gonna come back and talk about the beer a little bit more, but I'm gonna do a side-by-side comparison with my cream ale and this German lager. We're gonna see how they stand up. They're very similar. I love cream ale, but this is a really tough competition. It reminds me of being in Germany. It takes me right back, and I really just love this beer. And it's so classic. It's just exactly what you think of when you think of a fantastic European lager, specifically a German lager meant for the spring. Maibock is May, and that's when this was about. We're coming to the end of May now by the time I'm getting this video out. I'm just an American brewing beer. I've spent time in Germany. I love Germany. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the beer. And this just reminds me of being there, even though it was decades ago. And so Germans, please come on in and give your thoughts about Maibocks, Helles Bock, or Munich Helles, and what you think they're all supposed to be, how the hop profile should be. I like a lighter hop profile personally. Please tell me your opinions. Also, I see people wanting to discuss whether it's called Heller Bock or Helles Bock. As I understand, it would be a Helles Bock. You would convert that back to gender neutral rather than masculine of goat, which is Bock. So, but I tell you what, that goat will kick you. Vielen Dank und Prost. 10 pounds of German Pilsner malt. 8 more pounds of German Pilsner malt. 1.5 pounds of Munich malt, 1 pound of honey malt, ½ pound of Melanoidin Malt, and ½ pound of Carapils Malt. All right, my water's all ready to go to mash in. I just used my tap water, Portland Bull Run Reservoir water. It's very soft, low mineral content. I added a Campden tablet to get rid of any chloramines. I added 3 milliliters of lactic acid just to bring the pH down. That's the only thing. It can run a little high, my water can. And I added a teaspoon of liquid calcium chloride just to make sure the chloride to sulfate ratio is higher on the chloride, but I'm not obsessing over any of it. So let's mash in. My stripe water is about 156 degrees. I'm going to add it in portions so that I can stir it up and make sure there's no dough balls. That's sitting at right at 149 degrees. I don't want it too sweet or heavy bodied. I really want it to attenuate really well. We'll let it go 30 minutes. Okay, that's been 30 minutes. Give it a really good stir. That's just about 147, 148 degrees. I'm gonna let this go at this temperature for another 30 minutes. But I will come back and mix it up again, probably after about 15 minutes. Okay, that's another 30 minutes. It's already smelling sweet, so the conversion is working. The starches are converting to sugars. That is dipped down to 146 degrees, so I'm gonna put some more heat on it. I'm gonna bring it up to 149 degrees for another 30 minutes. Bringing the heat up very slowly while I'm stirring. I don't want extreme temperatures at the bottom portion of the solution while it's still mashing. Okay, that's in between 149 and 150 degrees. I'm gonna let this go for another 30 minutes. That's been the last 30 minutes for a total of a 90-minute mash time. Now I'm gonna add some heat to it slowly and bring it up to about 168 degrees to mash out. I'm gonna stir it the whole time so I don't scorch it. The mashing process for a lager or an ale is not any different. All the major differences are during fermentation. Okay, that's 168 degrees. I'm gonna let that sit for 10 minutes and then I'm gonna drain into my other kettle and sparge. Okay, that is drained out nicely. And so now I'm gonna sparge, which is rinse the grain. I used to obsess over not disturbing the grain bed. I just mix it up now so that it drains up. I don't worry about it anymore. I don't obsess over it. The false bottom in here works great and it just helps drain it out and rinse it. So let's go ahead and rinse the grain. The sparge water is 170 degrees so that it's easier to drain. The warmer it is, the easier it is to rinse all those last bit of sugars out off the grain. You can just poke holes if you want, if you get a stuck sparge. I'll poke holes and I'll just mix it up a little bit too. I'm not worried about it. That sparge water is also going to get me up to my pre-boil volume that I want because I'm going to boil off quite a bit of water, making sure I end up with 10 gallons for this batch. I'm going to be fermenting this into 2 kegs, so I just want to make sure I've got solid 5 gallons for each keg. All right, I'll let that finish draining, then I'm going to get the mash tun off the burner, get the cook kettle up back on the burner, and get to boil. Okay, we're getting close to a boil. I've been stirring the entire time. It was warming up. I found that that helps prevent the boil over. So we're almost there. Okay, it's starting to roll. Okay, we have achieved a boil. It's a nice slow rolling boil. It's vigorous enough. I'm gonna go ahead and let this boil for 45 minutes before I add my first round of hops. I'm using Hallertau Mittelfrüh. This is not a heavily hopped beer. I'm gonna add half of this, which is 2 ounces of pellets now, and boil that for another 45 minutes. That's pretty good. And this is a noble hop, so earthy, no real fruit flavors or anything like that. That's not intended for this style of beer. I'm brewing this Munich Helles and I got a little bit of sun here and it's really nice. And I'm just drinking on some of the kettle corn that I still have on tap. This kettle corn that I have left, I mean, look at how nice that looks. Crystal clear. That is so good. All right, back to brewing. Okay, I'm gonna add my last hop addition, and this is just gonna be for another 15 minutes of boil. I'm gonna add a Whirlfloc tablet as well to help clear it out as a hot side finding. Whirlfloc, it's just a refined seaweed, carrageenan. It's pretty much the same thing as adding Irish moss, but it's refined and it works really well. All right, 15 minutes, and then it'll be flame out. Okay, that's flame out. We're gonna chill this beer down as fast as possible. That's a copper coil immersion chiller. I circulate the water through the coil and it goes back out to my pool, so at least I salvage that water back into my pool and don't waste it. These are really effective to chill it down quickly. I'm going to take my gravity sample right from the cook kettle, since I'm going to fill the kegs and I'm going to ferment in the kegs here anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and take my sample now. I'm going to drop a hydrometer in that and hopefully it's where I need it to be. This is how I'm aerating my chilled wort. It works great. Okay, I'm ready to drain into my corny kegs to ferment this lager. I've got everything sanitized, ready to go. These kegs, since I'm using them to ferment, I completely broke them down, disassembled everything, thoroughly cleaned them with PBW, and soaked them, cleaned them, scrubbed them, and then fully sanitized them as well. So they're completely clean, ready to go. I don't want any chances of infection. This sample is already cleared out so nicely. That's amazing. I managed to get it down to 55 degrees with my groundwater, and my sample has already dropped out clear. It smells great. Very bready. Of course, it's sweet because it hasn't fermented out yet. That tastes wonderful. I'm so excited about this. When I came out earlier, I had left while it was boiling and came back out. And when I walked out here, it smelled like baking cookies or something for a minute. Very biscuity. I'm really excited about this beer. All right, let's get it kegged up and into the fermenter. So I'm gonna fill these kegs and then I'm gonna put it into it's my old kegerator that I used to use. Now I'm just using it as a cold chamber. And I have it at about 49 to 50 degrees right now. I'm gonna stick it in there, let it get down to 50 degrees, then I'll open it up and pitch the yeast.
Okay, I'm filling this keg. I'm going to fill the other keg as well, and I'll probably swap out to make sure I go back and forth to get them equally full and have equal head space. All right, we're going to call this 53 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and pitch my yeast. I am using SafLager W-34. It's a dry yeast, 11.5 gram packets. I'm putting 2 packets in each 5-gallon keg. As I understand, you're supposed to use almost twice what you would use for an ale. Okay, I think I overfilled those kegs. I didn't leave much headroom. I do have spunding valves that I'm going to put on there after the initial fermentation slows down. I'm not going to put them under pressure, but I want to use them just so there's no chance of air coming back in, but I don't want to clog them with Krausen and from the initial ferment. I'm very glad I decided to use blow-off tubes because it was aggressive and I overfilled these kegs. It blew off quite a bit of Krausen and wort. It just pushed all that out. Nothing got clogged. I decided to just follow the directions for the SafLager 3470. After 24 hours, it was already vigorously fermenting. I spent 5 days at 53 degrees, slowly moving up to 58 degrees. It was just about completely done after 4 days. I went one more day. My tilt hydrometer is reading 1.010. I know the tilt hydrometers are not the most accurate towards the end of fermentation because of Krausen buildup, but that is close enough to tell me that primary fermentation is complete already. I took off the blow-off tubes and I added the spunding valves just to continue to release pressure. I pulled it out of cold storage, let it slowly warm up for 5 days from 58 degrees and just touched 70 degrees. Then I turned the heat off and let it finish out at 63 degrees. So those warmer temperatures help that yeast reabsorb the diacetyl and the sulfur. Now I'm moving it back into cold storage and I'm going to reduce it from 63 back down to 53 degrees, letting it sit for about 4 days. Then I'm going to cold crash it down to about 36 degrees. I'll let that go for about a week of lagering. And these spunding valves are going to work nicely for those temperature changes so that I don't get oxygen suck back. So that's 3 weeks time total there. So now I'm going to transfer it off of the yeast into new kegs. I've got my CO2 hooked up to here with just 5 psi so that I can close transfer this into my other keg. If I had more tubing and maybe another adapter, I could just do this closed loop without using the CO2, and I would save some CO2 because I fully sanitized this keg and pushed the sanitizer out of it with CO2. So this is completely empty, but just full of CO2. That way there's no introduction of oxygen in this entire process. But if I had another adapter and more hosing, I could just loop it back to this keg and I could reuse that CO2. I'll do that probably next time. I just need to get another adapter, maybe some more hosing. I've got my outline. As I put pressure on this keg, it's going to flow out and into this keg. And since I don't have another adapter for there, I'm just going to open the PRV valve so that it will let out pressure, so that it will fill. I have a floating dip tube that sits at the top. It will slowly transfer the beer from the top down to fill this keg until it gets to the bottom. And then if I see any yeast start to come through, I'll stop it. I've got a little valve on here so that I don't get any yeast in there. And then I'll consider maybe collecting to harvest some of the yeast that I have in here for another batch. First, I don't have my adapter on there because I'm going to take a gravity reading. I'm going to fill this halfway with this keg, and that will purge all the oxygen that's potentially in this line as well. And then I'm going to put my adapter on and I'm going to drain it in. Then I'll sit this off to the side and then it can slowly start to warm up because I have another keg that I have to transfer as well. I did a 10-gallon batch and these are 2 basically 5-gallon kegs. The next one I come, I'll do the same process, fill up the rest of my sample to take my final gravity reading. I want that to get to room temperature to get an accurate reading with my hydrometer. So now that line is completely filled with beer, so there's no oxygen in there. I already have my sanitized fitting with a Duo tight adapter, so I just need to plug it in and then I'll hook it to the keg. And I'm going to attach this to the out connection because this has a floating dip valve in as well that's sitting at the bottom, so it will bottom fill and push the CO2 out. Now just open this valve, release the pressure, leave that valve open, and there it goes, flowing. 5 psi I think is fine. So this dip valve is at the top. It is slowly draining as it pushes the beer into the bottom
of this keg to fill it up from the bottom. And with the PRV valve open, the CO2 is coming out to release that pressure. Once this keg finishes transferring, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one. When I put these 2 kegs back into cold storage to lager for 2 more weeks, and I'm gonna do that at near freezing temperature, probably around 34 degrees. I will put CO2 pressure on it so that I'm carbonating it at the same time, so that it's ready to drink after 2 weeks. I've got the Helles Bock here on the left. Got the cream ale here on the right. The cream ale's had a little bit more time lagering and has cleared out fantastic. That looks great. The Helles Bock needs to lager a little bit more, but is already pretty close to crystal clear. The color looks comparable. The head's comparable. First one to smell. The cream ale is very clean. The Helles Bock is very clean too, but it's got that classic lager smell. Where the cream ale, the aroma is actually much less. All right, let's go in for a taste. Oh, that cream ale is great. Very creamy. It's rich and smooth, but it does clear off the palate pretty well. That caramel is really shining through. Let's go ahead and try the Helles Bock. Oh man, that's rich and smooth too. I can taste that it's stronger. There's more alcohol in it. Very doughy, very crisp and clean. Really tastes like a classic lager. The smell is so reminiscent and so classic. They're both carbonated about the same level. I think they almost look identical. The cream ale does seem to want to retain its head a little bit longer. It is a little bit more carbonated. It's a little darker in color. Well, this is a tough competition. I love cream ale. I love brewing with corn. I love how creamy that is. I love the hint of corn flavor. That's just a classic lager. Crisp, clean, smooth. It's hard to describe that classic lager flavor and aroma, and it just reminds me of Germany. I wish I could declare a winner, but I don't think I can. I think I'm the only winner here, and everyone who gets to drink this with me. I'm gonna call it a tie, and I'm gonna let my friends and family taste it and let me know what they think. The cream ale definitely has a creamier texture to it, 100%. It definitely is creamier. You can see still like every time you move it, anytime you do anything, that head really wants to come back. I mean, look at that. There is a definite difference in the texture. I think the Helles is a little bit lighter in color. Caramel corn cream ale, Helles Bock. I love both. This is about 5.8% alcohol, and this is about 7.1% alcohol. You know, maybe this smells like Germany. This smells like America. Both great places. I love it. I'm glad I have both. Cheers, y'all. Prost.